All right, everyone, thank you and welcome back to the side stage. So we're very lucky today to be hearing from Marina and Todd from 9 West. They are specifically going to speak to how to simplify the user checkout experience or the user experience in general on a website. And so we're super excited to see what they have to show us today. Their site is one that we reference quite a bit as we talk to merchants. These are the kind of things that you want to do to optimize your site. So with that, let's welcome Marina and Todd on stage.
Thanks, Greg.
Hi guys, good afternoon. I'm Todd Sugiyama, and this is my colleague Marina Vyto, and we together are the user experience and product team at 9 West. So you probably heard of 9 West, you know who we are, but if you don't, we're a footwear brand and established in 1978 in New York City. And the name 9 West comes after the original store location, 9 West 57th Street. But we recently established a relationship with Amazon when we implemented Amazon Pay. And we were super excited to implement it because we're trying to find new and sort of innovative ways to excite our customer, make the checkout process a lot easier, a little bit more friendlier. And one of the reasons why we were looking for these new and innovative ways was because e-commerce right now in sort of the traditional retail market is pretty terrible. The retail climate, I'm not sure if you've seen the news, but has been a challenge to all of us in traditional retail. And just to give you some backgrounds, I wanted to show you some retail marketing headlines from the beginning of June I pulled. So retail's a wreck, over 1,000 stores closed in a single week. J. Crew Drexler out as CEO. The US retail industry, what's been going on, and a closer look at the retail industry in crisis and what technology plays in solving it. And so amidst this pretty dismal and doom and gloom landscape, there is one sort of glimmer of hope that Marina and I are kind of focusing on, and it's what role technology plays in solving it. So we really had to take a hard look at ourselves. We had to kind of see what our process was and focus on what we do. We don't have a direct hand in creating the product, which is the shoe, but we do have control over the digital experience. So the website, the mobile experience, the app, any sort of digital related experience. And so I'll let Marina start explaining that process to you.
Thanks, Todd. I wonder how many in the audience come from traditional retail space. Like I mean brick and mortar, established brands. So it might not resonate what Todd was just talking about with you, but in the area where we are on Broadway and 40th Street, where like a lot of fashion retailers are, like we really feel the pain. That the paradigm is shifting, and that we need to find the footing in this new reality. So there are two ways that we are looking for that footing. One is we are looking at our process and optimizing it to make it the most efficient, to try to deliver the most with the least, and we are innovating. So the process, again, do more with less. So we strive for excellence, we try to focus on what's important, and we simplify everything else. You probably have heard of the 20-80 rule, 80-20 rule, but the idea is that with 20% of tasks that are most vital to your business or to whatever you're doing, you can deliver 80% of the results. So I feel Todd and I will live and breathe this rule in everything we do. So we looked at our process and we decided that the following 4 activities that you can see there are the ones that we should focus on, and we should cut everything else. So activity one, we investigate and prioritize very carefully customer problems. And intentionally say problems and not opportunities, and I will talk a little bit more about why that is. Then once the problems are identified, Todd takes it all through his collaborative UX design process, and we definitely user and A/B test, and that is, that as cliche as it sounds, it's very important to talk to customers, to watch them and to see and to understand them. And finally, we reflect on results and we adjust as we learn. So, customer problems. Why do I focus on customer problems and not the opportunities? If you work in technology, which I assume you do, you probably get lots of ideas. You have your own ideas, somebody brings ideas to you, and what happens is we sometimes get excited, like overly excited about ideas. What keeps me grounded specifically is linking whatever idea that comes my way to whatever problem this idea would be solving. It used to be that the problem was really like an opportunity, but I feel more in my space, it really starts with an idea that comes my way, and then we need to understand, okay, what would we try and solve with this idea? So I would like to illustrate this on this one very recent idea that came my way. How many people here have heard of PWAs, Progressive Web App? Okay, some sounds like, maybe maybe not. But progressive web apps, it's basically technology that allows to build app-like experience on mobile site. So it optimizes load times and helps with load times on slow connections. You see that transitions are smoother, the load times are the load is very smart, and when I look at sites that utilize PWA, I like them. So to me, this idea is like pretty big and exciting. So to keep myself grounded, I would take that idea and try to understand, okay, what is it that we would try and solve with this idea? And the problem behind is that I, as a customer, cannot wait too long for pages to load, right? So now that I have grounded myself in this customer problem, I will go and try and prioritize it. So to speed up things, we basically moved away from long opportunity assessments, and we use this process we call impact score. So we identify 4 key factors that help us score each problem. It's what % of customers are exposed to a problem, what % of merchandise is impacted by a problem, how high is purchase intent of a customer who is experiencing this problem, and how severe is this problem. It's not direct multiplication. If anybody is interested, I wonder, we probably will be distributing. I'll be happy to distribute the formula itself. But the idea is that this formula factors in these 4 components. And if I take this idea, right, and the problem behind it of loading mobile website faster through this process, I will see that even though the traffic is, it's substantial traffic that experiences mobile sites, right? It's about 60% of our traffic, even though it impacts, the entire merchandise. So it's a substantial chunk of experience. The fact that for us as a business and for our technology, mobile load is not really that big of a deal. I mean, it is a big deal, don't get me wrong. What it is our site currently loads pretty fast. That together will tell me that, right now the score is not that high because our mobile site does already load pretty fast. We should focus on something else and not on PWA. So I have a couple more examples of this scoring. I'm hoping that this is helpful. It is very helpful to me because it allows me very, very quickly size everything that comes my way and only focus on something that is impactful. So one idea was like a while back to make product pages responsive to screen sizes on mobile and desktop. The problem behind is that at that point in time, our site still had the fixed width of 877 pixels on desktop and 320 pixels on mobile. So most of the customers, when they would come to our product detail page would see lots of white space while they could be seeing engaging product information. So if I take that customer problem through the scoring exercise, I would get to resulting score of 29, which in my universe is very high. That would tell me that this is what I should focus on and not something like PWA. Another idea or opportunity, we currently do not have Zoom on our mobile product page. Obviously, customers want to see the detail of the product on mobile experience as well. If I take that through impact scoring, I will get to resulting score 15, also pretty high, but you can see 29 is higher. First, optimize the page for screen sizes, then work on mobile Zoom. So in my universe, it's like maybe 150, like I have a list of 150, all of them are scored because this is pretty easy, right? So that allows me then to look at a variety of problems and spot what's going to be most impactful. So now I'd like to switch gears. We're going to walk you through our latest, most recent project that we launched and how we went about it. So as you can imagine, I have this big list of problems and I identify what needs to be focused next. About 3 months ago, we found ourselves that our most pressing problems were on a product listing page. So at that time, we saw that there isn't enough product above the fold on PLP. We knew from prior A/B testing that customers customers would like to see more product than 3 across. However, we had the constraints of the fixed width, and plus we had the left navigation filters, as you can see. And another pressing problem that we had was that filter, sort, and category navigations were all navigation items were all folded into one filter and sort on mobile, and that created pretty confusing experience. So I identify the problems, and then I come to Todd, and I say, Todd, please help solve them.
Thanks. So now I come in. So we've identified the problems, we've prioritized, and now we do something called collaborative UX design. So why is it collaborative? Well, we aren't just designing in a bubble. So we're talking with the other departments. We're collecting we're collecting examples and experiences from other sources. And so we're looking and we're taking all of this collected information, and we're doing this to avoid any sort of pitfalls that might ultimately sink the product. So in collaborative UX design, we follow 4 main points. First one is benchmarking, ideation and collaboration, wireframes and prototypes, and user testing and A/B testing. So I'll walk you through these steps. So first, benchmarking. This is pretty simple. You probably know what it's about, but it's basically doing a collective sort of survey of the marketplace. We're taking examples, we're doing competitive analysis, and we are taking all of that competitive analysis along with doing any sort of research that's inspiring, so anything that's cool and unusual that sort of pushes the boundaries beyond the solution, beyond the norm of the solution. And we take all of these examples and then we slap them on a board. And so when we slap them on a board, we take a look at them collectively and we say, okay, so what can actually work for our solution? You know, what might work? And then the next step, after we sort of have a few ideas of what we're planning to do, we start this ideation and collaboration cycle. So as you can see here, there's a chart that's UX, dev, product, and then the customer. So there's a constant communication that goes in this cycle as we sort of process our ideas. One of the other reasons why we really want to speak with development is to understand what is technically capable when we present these ideas. So, for example, we may come to development and say, hey, we want to put a 360 rotating image on our landing page, on all of the images, and then have them load immediately. And they might say, well, you're going to have something with performance, you may slow down the site, et cetera, and then we want to rethink this idea, so it kind of goes back in that circle. We also want to have a unified experience too. So I'm not sure if any of you have ever given wires and direction to development and then come back with something completely different than you imagine. That happens a lot. So to have this sort of unified experience, we speak with each other, we try to understand what the other person's impressions are, kind of like group therapy. And then the last thing is resourcefulness. So going back to Marina's 80-20 rule, the reason why we communicate is because we want to see if perhaps they can reuse code or reconfigure a component. And that way, deadlines become shorter. Scope becomes smaller. We're not always building things from the ground up. After we have this sort of unified idea, we step into wireframes. And here, you can see 2 wireframes. So as Marina said, we wanted to add a 4th product to the row. And then possibly remove the left navigation. Now, removing the left navigation in our company was a very, very touchy subject. There's a lot of people who could not see life beyond a left nav. And so we had to kind of explore and entertain that idea. So we wireframed out 2 versions, one without a left nav and one with a left nav. And the reason why we thought we could take out the left nav is because after analyzing our metrics, the left nav, out of the 3 navigational elements on our site, performed the lowest. So, but that alone wasn't going to convince people. So what we could do was A/B test, right? This was a really simple A/B test. In our A/B testing platform, all we had to do was, you see the left nav there? We had to just hide that element. So we performed a 50-50 A/B test. 50% of our customers flowed to the control, and 50 flowed to variation 1 without it. And we wanted to see if there was going to be any negative impacts if we didn't have that left nav. So we tested based upon these key performance indicators. It's going to be conversion and then revenue per visitor, or revenue per session. And then we ran the test, we let it run until we had sufficient data. And lo and behold, variation 1 didn't have any negative impact on conversion or revenue per session. In fact, variation 1 actually outperformed control and in both aspects. So that was a real, an eye-opener, and it lulled a lot of the fears from the people who couldn't let go of that left nav. And then it also gave us the confidence that we were doing the right thing. So we had that data, but the next thing we wanted to do was user testing. So we wanted to test other elements that we were going to change on the page. So for instance, we wanted to test more complex interactions. For example, how the user interacts with the colors, changing the colors, whether it's rolling over that color swatch or clicking on the color swatch, rolling over the image to change the image. We also want to see about sort of informational hierarchy, how that could be laid out. So we didn't want to strain the development resources by building these 2 experiences on our live site and then A/B testing when we could possibly not use either of these. So we built a prototype, I built a prototype, and we tested these, we user tested these. One of the great things about user testing is you get mindset, you get the customer mindset. In A/B testing, you get data, but in user testing, you get sort of the likes and dislikes. You get suggestions of a possible experience. You also get why they did something. So we tested and we understood that users liked the click over the rollover. They liked the left alignment of the text, and they preferred the stars together with all the information rather at the top. And so this was really important. So after we gathered all that information, we put it together, and this is sort of our final solution. So as you can see, we removed the left navigation on desktop. We put the filters across the top. We improved the informational hierarchy. On mobile, we separated out the filter and sort into 2 simple drop-down menus, very similar to the desktop version. And this is what we ran with. Now, we were super happy about this, but we couldn't pat ourselves on the back just yet because we had to sort of analyze whether all this research, all of this meetings and collaboration, all of this, everything that we did actually made a difference in before and after. Because otherwise, what are we here for? So I'm going to hand it over to Marina to explain to you the aspects of evaluation.
Yeah, so after about a month of running this in production, we realized that yes, this was actually a very good solution. It exceeded, frankly, all of the goals for KPIs that we had. Our click-through rate went up, very healthy, 27%, and filter interaction rate went up as well. So to reiterate, I think if we do focus on the most impactful items, and if we do go through the, sometimes pain, but and joy of talking to the customers and running ideas by the customers and A/B testing, we do increase the success rates of our projects. So that was the process. Oh, one additional item on evaluation. Recently we started, in addition to just metrics, we also started following our builds with watching session replays. Session replays, there are multiple providers at this point, and it makes sense to take a look at what was it before and after and see how customers actually feel on the site. And some of the vendors out there, they allow you to they also have certain metrics built in, like SessionCam has the struggle score. So in other words, when we only started this this last year, and I do recommend it. We find good findings in session replay. So that was our process, right? This is what we do in order to optimize our site. But we also try to expand our horizons, and we try and innovate. And this is, in the next couple of slides, I'm going to explain where we are looking, what are we looking at doing next, in addition to optimizing user experience. I'm going to introduce the dirty P word. I don't know if you noticed, but everybody, I think, talks about personalization these days. We are not immune to it. In the last year, we have gotten a lot of value out of A/B testing. And we have been lucky to A/B test on 2 sites, on 9 West and on Easy Spirit. And it's been interesting to see how some of the tests do not actually resonate with the same way with the customer bases of these 2 sites. And think about it, it's women, both 9 West and Easy Spirit is women, different groups of women. So this particular test was interesting in that it resonated very well with 9 West group. So what we tested was, would they prefer the profile image on product listing page, this is the profile image, or would they prefer this angled, sorry, Todd, am I lying? Thank you. Oh, I don't know what happened to, but the one on the right is the angled image, right? So what was interesting it was that 9 West very strongly preferred profile, and Easy Spirit actually preferred angled image. And we had other tests like that. This is just an example. But the idea is that it's entirely possible that within 9 West, we have some segments that would actually prefer angled image. So perhaps what we should do is present whatever makes sense to the customers as they come to the site. So we used to think of running an A/B test and then rolling out the winning scenario to 100% of the group. And now the way we start thinking about it is that, there is maybe no need to run anything out, but what we need is a good personalization platform that would allow identifying who of the customers prefer angled and who prefer profile, and just running that as a constant personalization. And I'm just using that as a metaphor, but it can be a variety of preferences that we could run as a personalization and maximize user experience and maximize our business. Another area we look at personalizing is assortment sort, and this assortment sort, it does make sense really. If it rains in Seattle, you probably want to see rain boots. If it's muggy and hot in New York, you want to see sandals. So we want to give the customer the path to product, the shortest path to product, and the shortest path to whatever it is that they came to the site for. So if you have already purchased, well, then we know about you. We know that you like flats and size 7, and we should only present that to you potentially. And maybe for some, and identifying all of these different segments will help us understand the customer better, and again, serve them with the experience that resonates the most with them. But what does become important then, in order to personalize, we need to know who you are. And unlike you know, there are various ways to identify the customer. The easiest for us is email capture. Now, after the roadmap presentation on Amazon Payments, I'm realizing that we should probably bump up the scoring of the item of introducing the sign-in with Amazon Payments, because that also would help us identify the customer. But in any way, we need to identify in order to serve them with that experience, in order to know who they actually are. So that is really all we had. This is what we're working on. We focus on the customer. We focus on our process, and we are trying to do as much as possible with as little as possible. And we are looking at new ways to serve our customers better, anticipate their need, and serve them with the best experience. Would like to thank you. Thank you for listening, and thanks Amazon for having us. And we would leave you with this inspiration for perseverance.
Thank you, Todd and Marina. Appreciate that. Such a beautiful site, and I guess we can't open up for questions. We don't have time, but I do have one question for you guys. You know, we've seen how beautiful your site is after all of this testing, A/B testing, user experience testing. How does that play into your ongoing? Is it a one-time you figure out what you want to do and then you're done, or is it consistent?
Yeah, I can take that. It is pretty much an ongoing cycle. So we are running these circles in parallel for several builds. What we call builds is our releases ahead of time. So we would start identifying, and I'm doing this ongoing prioritization of all items. And then Todd is pretty much running the collaborative UX design for multiple projects simultaneously.
So ongoing, huh?
Yes,
ongoing. Okay, great. All right, thank you again. So we are actually going to move back to the main stage. So get a few more steps in and head over there. I'm really excited about this session over there. It's the Shark Tank discussion. So if you can make it over, that would be great. Thanks.